I have unironically found what I believe to be the final form of intersectional social justice, and it's a site called RaceBaitr. Unironically, they say that RaceBaitr is a platform created to explore the various ways race is expressed and defined with the goal of creating a world without all of its intersecting oppressions. Wow, that sounds like a big job by the standards of intersectionality. That sounds like a hell of a cause, right? Some might call this race baiting. Okay. And that's why we called our site RaceBaitr, I guess. Sorry, with the not ER. This space is dedicated to imagining and working toward a world outside of the white supremacist, heteropatriarchal, capitalistic gaze, with particular attention to the function of anti-blackness. Those who insist on wielding that gaze can tell us what you can call us what you like. We aren't talking to you, right? So they literally don't care what I have to say about this, because I'm white and cis heteropatriarchal and a capitalist. I'm not a supremacist, though. I think we're all equal. Jesus. Now, I thought this was a parody because I started looking at some of the things. I mean, they've got a huge section, race and blackness, gender and queerness, education, all this sort of stuff. So I looked at the race one. 7 ways to reject your light skin privilege. The demonization of African spirituality in the church is antithetical to the history of black Christianity. Men of colour are creating their own manospheres and their misogynistic violence is going ignored, right? This sounds like one of the parody sites that have sprung up regarding social justice. This sounds like NPC Daily or something, which is unironically awesome. Or the Babylon Bee or something like that. Some of these really funny sites. This sounds just like that with these headlines. And so I thought, right, okay, I'll just pick one, a ridiculous one, and I'll investigate the person who made it and see if this is a parody. Because I honestly can't fucking tell. I was looking at this and I was past this, right, this surely is not real. I mean, like, there is not an ounce of self-awareness in the whole thing. But I noticed that it had gone on for quite some time. Like, they've been doing this for at least a year, over a year, in fact. No, almost a year. Sorry, they're not that old. But I was just like, well, this can't be true. So I chose this ridiculous article, Caster Semenya, and how the biomedical industry is designed to kill black people. I haven't even read the article. It's just designed to do it. So I just skipped through to find out who the author was. Right. Amber Butts is a writer, educator, and tenants' rights organizer from Oakland, California. Her work has appeared in Black Queer Flow, KPFA's Women's Magazine Radio, and 6x8 Press. She is currently at work on an Afrofuturist novel based on the themes of intergenerational trauma, imagination, black survival, and environmental racism. Again, it seems like a parody account. She works to amplify the stories of poor black folks with an emphasis on mamas and children and elders. Because fuck black men, I guess. She believes in asking the big... No, I'm joking. She believes in asking the big and small questions that lead to tangible expressions of freedom and liberation. Right. So, I looked her up and she does indeed have like a Facebook page that she has been posting on for a few years. And she posts stuff like, careful not to create and redistribute skewed narratives about folks' integrity under the guise of accountability. Careful about not cycling through and strengthening those narratives, because you will not take the time to have a direct conversation, even if it's been taking up space in you. Build worlds where you and others are disagreed with and still human, where you are checked and required to do better because you are believed in, replicating practices of the systems... from the systems, intent on killing us, kills us. Talk to somebody. Right. So, and then Margot Stebbing, whoever that is, but again, like, it doesn't seem to be a small burner account or anything, her saying we're amplifying this. Thank you, Amber Butts. Like, this is some genius woke take. And again, she's got a Medium account that has been going for quite some time and looks like a parody account. So all I'm saying, right, is if Amber Butts is not a real person, then I have been totally fooled. Because as far as I can see, this is a fucking Poe. Anti-blackness is everywhere, even in black spaces. So of course it is. Of course it is. Like, I'm struggling to believe that this is real, even though it really seems to be real. I mean, I found a video of her talking about all of this stuff. I'll play a couple of seconds of it so you can hear it.
Videos, specifically with like shit that was happening in Ferguson. You know, folks really were like, oh, Fox News is saying we're doing this and CNN is saying we're doing that. We're going to show what we're actually doing. And one of the things that I think is really important is like there's some folks who are not hella savvy with social media, right? Like I write long statuses on Facebook, but I have no idea how to post a GIF or GIF or however you say it. And I'm just learning emojis.
Okay, I just want to stress, I don't want anyone to contact this woman, because just don't. But she also has a Patreon account, and she does make some money off of it. So I can only assume that this is a real person using a real account with a real job that allows them to write things like, the biomedical industry is designed to kill black people. It's the full load of intersectionality, to the point where even other black people are being oppressive by their lighter skin, right? So the double standards between the ways black female and white male athletes are celebrated, received, and admonished goes beyond the arena. Too often, female athletes are held to a higher standard. Okay. So these double standards manifest themselves in expectations about physiques, chemical makeup, performance of different genders. Well, that's only because that seems to be what we find. But it is black women who bear the brunt of these biomedical sex and class contradictions. What do you mean? Like, there's no particular contradiction here. It's not an argument to say that these people generally seem to be that way. That's not arguing for something, unless you are just taking every statement that is a descriptive statement about the world to be an argument in and of itself, because I guess everyone's personal experience is subjective, and therefore the information you think you took in through your eyes isn't something you can rely on. So all you can do is speak in the most accurate terms that this is information that you have seen previously because it's your experience. Like that, and someone else might just deny that outright, because we're in the age now where you can just deny things that are obviously real, and that's a contradiction, I suppose. That's the only way I can make that make sense. And it is black women, black trans, and black intersex folks that we need to be listening to right now. What a shock. And you just happen to be a black woman. Possibly black trans or black intersex. I don't actually know. I didn't look that far into you. But like, maybe you are right at the bottom of the oppression scale there. But so they introduced a new policy regulating women who naturally produce high levels of testosterone. Yes, this is one of the problems that you have when you allow people who are born biologically male to start competing in the Olympics or whatever it is. Now we've got to start capping the amount of testosterone women can have and ask them to dope themselves, because we can't be sure that they're natural born women who don't want to have an unfair advantage in what we would consider to be otherwise testosterone doping. This is the brave new world we've found ourselves in. We're so close to becoming equal. It's just there. It's just there. We just need to dope a few more women. Fuck. This is absolutely nuts where this is. But anyway, this is where the argument's made proper. Gender is a social construct, and therefore, because that's the axiom that we're dealing with, gender is not a real thing. It's not biologically essential. It is purely sociological. So it's a social construct, and it impacts and influences legislation, realities, and conditions and access. African, indigenous, and Asian worldviews have highlighted how unnecessary and unprogressive our reliance on gender is, because it has produced narrow, simplistic narratives that function to control and justify the lived realities of those most impacted. Right, that sounds like a lot of nonsense, doesn't it? But what she's suggesting is that Native Americans, Africans, and Asians have done away with gender roles. They're not reliant on gender roles, which I have to say is not my observation. But then I've only ever looked at pictures of these places, to be honest, and watched videos of these places and spoken to people from these places where they seem to have gender roles. I haven't actually been to, I mean, I've been to I've met Native Americans, but they seem to have gender roles. But I haven't been to South America and the Maya or something. I haven't or Australia and met the Aborigines. I haven't been to Africa, and I don't think I've actually been to Asia either. But I've spoken to a lot of people who have, and they seem to have gender roles out there. So I don't really know what to say about that, apart from you seem to be living in a parallel universe that doesn't correspond to the most accurate information I can find about our own universe. And what a surprise, you live in California. just so you know. But anyway, the Western world's approach and preoccupation with gender informs and is strengthened by the categorizing of race, of course it is, ability, class as separate identities, of course they are. I mean, but the thing is, right, that is actually a desirable thing if you think about it, because if you don't have class, ability, and race as well as gender as separate classes and separate identities, then you're kind of stuck with a position where all black people are of lower caste, or all women are of a lower caste caste. Sorry, you've got them as a literal subsection of society that can't leave that. If they're not separate identities, you can't have an aristocratic black woman, because you may well have defined all black women to be slaves if you're in a backwards area of the world. So the fact that we split these up and make these distinctions is actually to the benefit of the people with these identities, just so you know. But anyway, our communities are skilled at engaging at pre-colonial navigation between these intersections. Oh, that's good. Through Semenya's genitals, identity, and status as a woman... her genitals have been up for debate. The interrogation and attempt to delegitimize black bodies is not new. What the fuck are you talking about? The US's history of forced sterilization. Oh, Jesus. Well, I mean, forced doping does kind of remind me of that sort of practice, actually. I think that history is probably going to judge it fairly unkindly. And all I'm saying is it's a product of intersectionality. So, careful where you're going with this. But anyway, yeah, awful stuff. White folks. Of course. Why didn't I think we'd get to that? White folks have profited over categorizing, severing, and collecting different parts of us for their use. Imagine that being what you think. The way you conceive the world is that white people basically go around dismembering black people for their collections. Jesus. There are probably white people in Eastern Europe who've never met a black person. Have only read about them in textbooks or something. Imagine somewhere in outer Russia, where Siberia or something. Where what do you mean black people? Where? Nowhere near here, mate. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. But white people, they've just done this. Policing black women and non-binary folks' identities in and outside of the sports arena is an extension and reinforcement of this fraught history. I'll just do the highlighted bits because that's the bit she really means. The intentional capitalist and colonialist project of gender has been used to strengthen the political economies of hegemony, anti-blackness, and misogynoir. That means hating someone because they're a black woman. Not just because they're a woman, or just because they're black. It's a special thing for a black woman, just so you know. Yeah, it's the worst portmanteau of anything, isn't it? It's there's Greek and French. Oh, die. Jesus, don't do it. It's bad enough when people mix Greek and Latin, okay? Just kidding, I'm no fucking linguist. It seeks to diminish our connection and undermine our futures. The colonial project of gender undermines your future. That's really concerning. Because, I was looking at her Facebook page. I'm not going to show it. But she's clearly a fairly well-to-do woman in California, living in a nice, spacious place, posting ironic status updates on Facebook, and eating avocado. So it's not like I would suggest in any other form I can identify any kind of suffering of this woman, except in her own head, and through the crazed lens of her ideology. She looks perfectly happy and healthy. It's just she believes this ridiculous stuff. And again, suggested readings from The Guardian and The Root and whatever this is, just a ResearchGate publication. It's not that she hasn't provided anything, because this is full critical race theory, obviously, but it's just so wacky, and it is genuinely the final, final expression of identity politics, intersectional social justice. This is what it looks like. If you want social justice to take over the world, this is what you're going to be reading and writing and believing. You are absolutely... I mean, it's time to abolish elite universities. That's what I mean. Honestly, let's get to it. Let's just abolish all universities, since this is where they're going. Why just the elite ones? Surely the regular ones perpetuate inequality too, don't they? So you may as well get them too. How the fixation on black excellence hinders the black freedom movement. Oh, fuck me. Just the whole thing is insane. Absolutely insane. And I can't believe anyone would not understand that this is the obvious direction in which it's going. In fact, hang on, how far back does this go? To 2015. And to be honest with you, it was probably a lot less crazy back then as well. I've got no doubt whatsoever that this has got crazier and crazier over time. But I'm not going to look at that now. You can explore this on your own, because it looks like an absolute goldmine of entertainment.